Right then, so this is the very last box of the numbered only series. So far, when I first unboxed all these, I sorted them into the respective series. So I had all the numbered ones, the Great Pans, the Pan Giants, and the other series as well. So my priority for this week off was to sort out at least all the numbered only series pans. So I got them all out, I put them all into numerical order, and this is the fourth box now, plus I got some spillovers over there, just over to number 400. So basically, if I unpack these are pretty much in order. So I should be able to just unpack this box, and then we'll work my way through, hopefully without too much incident, because these should all be exactly in order with a bit of luck. So sort of sense check as I go along. So 3, 4, 4, yeah, down here. Now what I found with this collection is that the previous owner, a bit like me really, concentrated on the pan books, which were the numbered only series initially, and then he had the first sort of 100 or so Great Pans, first 100 or so Giants, not complete by any means. So this numbered only collection wasn't complete, but it was very near complete. There were a few books missing, but not many in actual fact. So the good news is, so far I had a list of the numbered only series of the 440 or so that were released. I needed maybe about 40 for the set, and as I've been through so far, every single one that I needed has actually been in this collection, so I'm absolutely delighted with that. There's also been some particularly high grade copies that I've swapped around. Of the Ian Flemings, there were the copy of Moonraker was exceptional, and even though that's now perhaps the fourth or fifth copy through my hands of the first pan of Moonraker, I still swapped it for the one that was in this collection because it was even better. So basically I'm going to sort these out. This is going to be my last hurrah for the numbered. I'm going to go right through to the very end, and I'm just going to get them into approximate piles for me to work on, of a similar height, and I shall just show you what goes through the process for all the different piles, and then we'll jump forward once I've cleaned them all and we'll go up to my main collection room where my main pans are, and I'll show you the process that I go through when I'm sort of comparing copies. So the reason is, that's why I need to get these as clean as possible, because I want to see ultimately what are the best copies that I own, and I want to obviously keep the best ones for myself, and the lower grade ones I shall, sell or trade on. So that's the plan basically, but it's quite a long and involved old process, and some books, the original owner had many copies, and there was loads of copies. Actually, there was more than one copy in my collection anyway. So in the end, I've ended up, some books I've had like 4 copies to check, and I only want to keep one. So anyway, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to sort these all out into the piles, and then we're going to clean a pile, and you'll get to see the exact process of what I do. So what I've done now, I've sorted the final sort of 140, 150 books into piles of about 15 to 18 books per pile, and these are all in sort of numerical order. And what I'm going to do a pile at a time, starting with that pile over there, and I'm going to go through and process them and get them cleaned up. Right, so the next step then, I've got this this next batch of books, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to split it into like let's see, 3 wedges like so, and I'm just going to get the dust off the top. Now, one of the hallmarks of this collection, I'm afraid to say, was that they've been in storage for a long time. I believe 2 to 3 decades, without really being looked after or popped on a shelf. So they ended up getting rather dusty. So all I'm going to do, and you've seen me do this before, I'm going to take my soft toothbrush and I'm going to give the books a bit of a dusting, because I think you can probably see little plumes of dust coming off these. Obviously the worst edge is the top, where the books have been stood on a shelf. I recently had from the same collection, in fact, I did 100 Collins White Circle crime books, and they were just the dirtiest books I've ever had to clean up, but they actually came up rather nice underneath, but it did leave a bit of a mess. In fact, they were so dusty I actually had to do this outside, this bit of the process. So as you can see, not a lot off the bottom or sides, but the tops were a little bit dusty. So I'm going to repeat the process here on these books, just until I've done all of these. See that first bit, that initial plume of dust. Makes you think, doesn't it? So on my, regular bookshelves, probably not enough, not as often as I should, but I do run the vacuum cleaner nozzle over the top just to get any clumps that may have formed. But this has taken so much time. As you can see, the books I've got today, this is going to be a day's work cleaning this lot, which is quite a bit, isn't it? But as I said, I've got people waiting to buy some of these off me. Hopefully I'll have some swaps as well. There's been a few other collectors who said, I really need that one, and I'm more than happy to oblige if it's one that I don't already need, if it's a double. I have already sold a few online. Some people were really desperate for some of them, and they've already gone. So the collection is already off to the four winds of the earth. So that was stage one, which was basically get all the dust and dirt off the top edges of the books. So that was that. Let's pop them back into order. Now stage two then, I'll just work my way slightly backwards through these. Because these are slightly later ones, they're still early 50s, but 1955. So the very earliest pans in the number series that I was doing were published in the late 40s, so 1947 upwards. And some of those, particularly those that were printed in France, weren't as well made as the ones that were printed in Britain. So those ones needed more work, and in a lot of cases the spines had come off and needed regluing. So the next stage is I'm just going to have a look through, see if there's any sort of pages that need turning over, which there isn't, and if there's any pencil pen marks to rub out, which there isn't on that one, and also no spine damage at all either. So that's really good news. So this one's a nice robust copy as well. This is pretty scarce, this one. It's taken me ages to get a copy, so I'm very, very pleased to get it. Once again, no pencil marks inside to sort out. So this is giving them the once over before I sort of polish them. It's got a vintage 5p on the inside cover there. So all of these, as I've been going along, I've been cleaning up, and that's why it's taken, you can only do about 100 a day, carefully, amongst other things. That has actually got a small name on the front cover, which I'm going to see if I can get that one off before I polish it. And it just is coming off with a little bit of teasing. There we are. As I said, it's not every day you get such a huge collection of a publisher that you already collect. So far, and fingers crossed this will be the case right to the end, everyone in the numbered series which I've needed has been there. So I've been able to fill all my gaps in. Now, as you know, I've already filmed the numbered series books in my collection, but I've pulled them, all the ones that I didn't have, I've pulled to one side to do like a follow-up video showing all the ones that I didn't have, and that I've added to in this collection. They're not all mint by any means. Some of them I've filled in the blank, but they're going to remain on my wants list as ones that I'd like to upgrade at some point. But you know, I'm just happy to have a copy for the time being, in regardless of, you know, what condition it's in. This one's Agatha Christie. So I have listed some of the Agatha Christies on eBay now, because I think bar one, which I didn't have so far, I think I had them all in the numbered series. I think there was one that I didn't have. So I've started to list those because they're very much in demand, particularly number 4. As I said, I had the James Bond books anyway, so they've already been up onto eBay and already sold. Little 20p here. And it's funny, the stuff I've been finding inside some of these has been hilarious. A couple of really nice vintage flyers. One of them was a flyer for Butlins, a really early one, it was around 1949. That was pretty cool. And I've got one for Daz recently as well, the soap, the washing up soap substance. That was really funny, because it had just launched, I believe. Yeah, it's got a 1 shilling inside. So it has been amazing. I was hoping, I mean, I'm not really even halfway through on the pans yet. I'm almost halfway. But I'm sort of half hoping that out of all these pan books, I might find a signed one. That would be lovely, wouldn't it, you know? But so far, nothing. Just in being a day-to-day sort of penguin collector, I've ended up coming across copies that have been signed by the authors by accident. I always remember a friend of mine, a few years back, he was in a charity shop, and he picked up a copy of one of the 2 Ronnies, you know, Ronnie Corbett and Ronnie Barker, and that was signed by both of them. I couldn't believe it. How jammy is that, you know? Wouldn't have minded that one. I have got Ronnie Barker's autograph, I think on a still, a BBC still from Porridge, but even so, it'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it, to find that in a charity shop. As you can see, a lot of these do need their like second-hand price rubbed out, and either through jumble. So this is the sort of thing I'm talking about, where you get little sort of flyers inside. Generally speaking, I just leave them in there because they've paid, the Encyclopedia Britannica paid to have that advert inserted into this pan book. So, you know, I want them to be as complete as possible. But sometimes I take them out if they're of special interest, you know. So none of these have actually needed gluing, which I am pleased about, because when the spines come away, it's just more work more than anything, you know. Certainly a mixture of conditions as well. This is, you know, what I would say a very sort of low grade reading copy. That's probably one that I need. And it was interesting to see that the ones that I had either that I didn't own at all, or that mine were in low grade, were also in low grade in this collection, which I found quite interesting. It's probably the way the books are bound. Other spines were really susceptible to any sunlight and have faded. And that's, you do find this time and time again. Certain penguins are the same, you know, they just keep turning up in lower grade, and sometimes it's down to where they were printed, how they were printed, and how they've aged, how the glue has aged, things like that. This is one which ended up slightly out of position. This is number 200. Not the greatest Agatha Christie copy, but it's quite a rarity, that one. I think my existing one is better than this, but I'm still going to take it upstairs and compare it to the main collection. So there we are. So none of those needed any sort of bits of the spine regluing, which I was pleased to see. So that's good news. So the next thing I'm going to do is just give them a bit of a polish. So I'll change the camera angle for that slightly. Right then, so got my trusty cloth here, and Mr. Sheen. What would we do without Mr. Sheen, eh? And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to, because these covers have got a slight gloss to them, they're not matte. These I'm going to give a little wipe over just to take off a lot of the invisible sort of dirt. You probably can't really see it on the screen there, but a lot of these are quite grubby. They've got fingerprints on, and I think doing it this way just gives them that little extra level of sort of cleanliness more than anything. Obviously, if a cover is laminated, and some of them are, then it does make it much easier to give them a clean. But these aren't laminated per se, but they are what I would call sort of glossy covers. So in a lot of cases, just having a bit of polish rubbed over it can make quite a difference to them. I would obviously recommend treading with caution in certain circumstances, and I would never spray the spray directly onto the books if I could help it. I have to say, as I've been going through them, I thought, I don't recognise this one, I don't recognise that one. But I don't actually check my wants list to see if it's one that I need until I'm literally in front of the collection. And I've got the books in front of me. What's been really weird is that some of the stuff I've had like 4 copies in my hands to choose the best one, which is absolutely bananas when you think about it. So I think it was high time I got rid of some of my duplicates of some of them, which is what I've started doing, particularly the very early novels. These are coming up quite nicely. Spaceways was a really nice one, that very early sort of 50s feel, mid-50s this is now, the sort of B-movie sort of era, and it reeks of the decade that these were published, doesn't it? Reminds me of something like, I don't know, Quatermass, Day the Earth Stood Still, that sort of thing. Sort of 50s B-movie period. Love them. This is always one that fascinated me as a kid, the Frogman. Absolutely amazing. There's even a few sort of four colour comics called the Frogman. That's what they're called. They were really quite fascinating. As you can see, these are coming up quite nicely. This one I don't recognise. The Clue of the Twisted Candle. Don't recognise this one at all. And one thing you'll notice, it's got quite like a nice burgundy sort of colour on the front. The spine would have been that as well, and it's just faded out. It's literally just faded off over time. And reds and certain yellows and oranges are the most susceptible colours to fading under sunlight. So they're the ones to sort of look out for. I nowadays have none of my books are in direct sunlight at all. I even try to avoid daylight if I can, but actual normal daylight's not too bad. It's just you don't want any direct sun coming through a window straight onto the spines of your books, because regardless of the colour, but particularly reds, you'll come a cropper and they'll just go to nothing. Now this one here, number 300, is a glossy one. Really, really nice jacket, but this has got a high gloss cover on it, much glossier than other books of the time. So consequently, it does make it easier to clean up, and little marks will come up better. And all we're really doing is getting rid of sort of grubby fingerprint marks that would have accumulated over the years. I mean, looking at something like this, I would estimate it's got one big spine crease. It's probably only been read the once, you know. I would guess. Nice jacket, isn't it? That really nice cover, that one. An engrossing crime story. Another nice early science fiction. And Arthur C. Clarke was one of the authors I read first in science fiction. Because when I was growing up, he was on TV anyway, doing the TV show Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, if you remember that one, which is sort of unexplained stories of the unexplained. Really, really good, but sort of based in fact in a lot of cases. That's how I knew him. First, heard of Arthur C. Clarke, but then as I grew slightly older, I started finding his science fiction and started dipping into them. And a bit like the 1950s Isaac Asimov's, they are a bit dated nowadays. However, he was still very much ahead of his time. He sort of predicted satellites orbiting the Earth way before they became, decades and decades before they became reality. So he's very forward-thinking. I know his science fiction, his later stuff, the Rama series in particular, is still highly, highly regarded. And of course, the 2001, 2010, 2061 sequence is also great stuff, isn't it? Murder in the Mews. I got to admit, looking through the Agatha Christie's recently and seeing so many, I've taken a distinct disliking to their cover portrayal of Hercule Poirot. I really, really don't like the way that they've depicted him. I don't know why. I think maybe I'm thinking of David Suchet in the role now. Obviously, these were long before the TV adaptations came along. But even so, I just don't like the way that Poirot is depicted on these early jackets. But that's just me. Just a few more to go through now in this stage of the process. And as you can see, getting through 100 books in a day, you can see why it's taken me that long to do it. In amongst other stuff that I'm doing during the day as well, such as walking the dog and everything else, doing a little bit of shopping and what have you. Lots of stuff around the house. Been painting this week and doing lots of gardening, because traditionally I would have tried to have got a week abroad with the family, but we've not been able to obviously do that this time with the lockdown. Don't really want to venture overseas quite now, and the timing of this collection turning out couldn't have been any better, because I'd been hoping to get it since January, but the lockdown put paid to that, and then eventually was able to do it with the easing of restrictions. So I'm more than happy to be processing these. This is like a bookman's holiday, isn't it? Not a busman's holiday, a bookman's holiday, because I'm just in my element doing this sort of stuff. And it's meant I've been able to do some really great videos as well, and catch up on my sort of YouTubing a bit as well, which is also going great at the moment. So that's really good. So if you do get a chance, and if you wouldn't mind, do share these videos on your social media. It does increase the audience, and it does get them out to a wider viewership, because I know these are quite long videos, and they get, some of my early cleaning videos now have had 700-800 views now, so they're certainly getting up there. But it's nothing like, if you look at my channel, I do books, I do Star Wars, and I do gaming videos, retro gaming videos. It's a bit of a weird mixture, isn't it? But I've got three very distinct audiences, and some of them cross over. Some of them just look at the book ones, some of them just look at the game ones, others just do the Star Wars stuff. So I hope I can keep everybody happy with a decent mixture of stuff. Brilliant. So last one now, and then what we'll do, now that these have all been cleaned as best I can, these pretty much are ready to go into my crates. So I'm going to take them up into the main collection. I'm going to do a bit of comparing and see which copies are the best. So obviously before I do that, I do have another 10 stacks to do. So I'm going to cut the video off there. I'm going to clean the rest of the books, and then the next time you see these, they're going to be in front of my main collection, and we're going to have a look and see who wins the condition contest. Okay, so this is just a quick look at where some of my pan collection and vintage paperbacks are stored. And as you can see, I've been working my way through the numbered series. That's what we've been focusing on. And I just thought I'd show you the process that I go through when I get a big collection of swapping the books around and making sure I've got the best possible copies. This is the next batch of my own collection here, my regular collection. And this stuff here is from the collection that I bought recently. Now I know for a fact, according to my computer, that I still need pans 294 and 295. So I haven't got copies of those to even compare because these are on my wants list. So those I'm going to be keeping. I'm going to put them separate because all the ones that I've added to my collection, I'm going to do a follow-up video showing all of those because they've never been shown on the channel before. That then leads me into number 296. So this was my copy of 296, and this was the one that, sorry, this is the collection copy and this is my old copy. So once again, my old copy's actually got a bit of sort of wear, and it's been read a few more times, so I'm actually going to keep the new copy, and that one will be like a spare. So I'll put that over to one side. Next one we've got is this one, Spaceways, and this is another instance where I had two copies in my own collection anyway, and there was another copy in the collection that I bought. So I've actually got 3 copies of Spaceways. Now I do only need the best copy one, and as you can see there, the best sort of spine is that one. So I'd say that's the overall the best condition one out of all 3 copies that I've got. So that's the one I'm going to keep, and those 2 will go into my my swaps box. Okay, so we'll just finish this little batch now. So this is number 298, Frogman. Here's my old copy of Frogman, and my old one is actually better than the one that came with the collection. So that's the one I'm going to keep. 299. This is a Edgar Wallace, The Clue of the Twisted Candle, and my existing one was better than the one in the collection. Number 300 is Open Verdict. Now this is one of the ones which has got a glossy cover, so they've generally survived quite well. In actual fact, the one that I had already was a better copy, so that's the one I'm going to keep. 301 was this one from Arthur C. Clarke, Prelude to Space, a real classic, that one. And once again, the copy that I had, I think, was probably a better one than that came in the collection. So that sort of gives you an idea of what what we're doing, and what I'm going to do with every single book in this collection. If it's one that I need, like these 2, these will be put to one side, and I shall do a follow-up video with those. But if it's ones that I've already got, I'll just compare them and obviously keep the best copies for myself, and they'll end up in the main collection. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at the process that I go through when I get brand new vintage paperbacks and I add them to my collection. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it a thumbs up. Do please consider subscribing for regular vintage paperback videos, and I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.